All right, so I'm going to give a quick overview of my Genesis collection. Since my game room tour, I've moved some stuff around. So the Genesis games are now on these floating shelves, and I condensed the SNES and NES games all into one. Just kind of like to mix it up every now and then. So I'm going to run through this collection here and just talk about the games that are notable or interesting or just that I personally like a lot. So they're alphabetized. At one point, I did have these organized by spine color. That proved challenging for many reasons. We had the early Genesis games, which, like this, for example, is an early Genesis game spine. You can see the high detail on the Genesis logo, and it's rather small. And then they got big, and then, so I was fighting the battle of alphabetizing these, keeping the black spines, but also trying to match up the size of the Genesis logos and the detail on them. So we went from big to smaller, but same style. And they changed them by release year, so it just got nuts. Like, there was too many, like, restarting over of the alphabetical order, so I said, whatever, I'm just gonna go straight alphabetical again. So that's why they are the way they are. So, it's the case for my flash drive, Mega SD, it's fantastic. Some simulation games. So this first game of interest here is a Mega Drive game. It's called Advanced Buster Hawk Gleylancer, and it's one of my favorite shooters on the system. It's a Mega Drive game, so it's obviously a Japanese import, and it's kind of pricey now, so I got one of these plastic game protector boxes. At one point, I was using a repro of this, like a custom repro, but I figured I should have the original game. I liked it so much, so I sprung for the real thing. The Batman and Robin, this is supposed to be a cardboard box. I bought it off eBay, and it came like this, and I kind of didn't realize till later that it was supposed to be a cardboard box, but what are you going to do? I mean, I'm not going to go and buy another copy in a cardboard box. I don't really care that much if it's a cardboard box or not. Airbuster. Airbuster is a game that is also on PC Engine. It's known as Aeroblasters. And it's kind of a fun game. It's not my favorite. It gets really hard in some points, especially those stupid speed tunnels. We just end up crashing into the walls unless you have that sled power-up. Air Diver is kind of like a wannabe afterburner game with lots of green real estate used up for the dashboard for some reason. My guess is because they needed something static so they wouldn't have too many moving things on screen. It's kind of hard to play. It's distracting how little of the action you actually see. I don't know. It's okay, I guess. Disney's Aladdin. Everybody. So would you alphabetize this under D for Disney's or under A for Aladdin? This is just one of those annoyances with organizing games as well. And technically it's Disney's Aladdin, but, like with Super Nintendo, are you going to organize your games based on this word super? It's just one of those choices you have to make. Alex Kidd, I really liked the Sega Master System, Alex Kidd in Miracle World, and, I didn't really play the other ones. I know there are a lot of them on there. And then I saw that Genesis released this, and I played this game, and I was very underwhelmed. It was a very poor showing for what was supposed to be the mascot on the new system. Alien Soldier, this is obviously a repro because this did not come out domestically. It's a treasure game, and it's very, complex. It can be a lot of fun if you're good at it and you get the hang of it, switching out the weapons, knowing which weapons to use. It's basically a boss rush, right? And with treasure games, there's tons of stuff going on the screen at once. I want to sink more time into this because I'm just absolutely terrible at it. Animaniacs games, yeah, I got it because it was Konami. That's probably the only reason why I have it. Same thing with Acme All-Stars. Alien 3, kind of a run and gun game. The premise is kind of cool, although it doesn't really follow the movie, because she has a gun. In the movie there were no guns. It's kind of hard, though. There's a lot of time restrictions on here, which make the game kind of tough. There's some hacks, Game Genie codes I think you can use to make it easier, increase the time limit, that kind of stuff. Alien Storm's a beat 'em up in the vein of Golden Axe, but with aliens. Weird looking aliens, you know, like kind of like the blobby kind of aliens. You know, I feel like I should like this game more. I don't like how your main weapon can run out of charge for the main dude. I forgot his name. That always felt kind of lame to me. It's like in Golden Axe, your axe doesn't break down, you know? It's kind of weird. I don't know why they would do that. Alicia Dragoon, you know, everybody heralds this as a hidden gem or whatnot, whatever, you know. You got a dragon that follows you around. The dragons, they can be swapped out, they can be hurt. Another one of those walking and casting magic type games. Altered Beast, Ark's Odyssey. This is a new one in my collection. Don't know a whole lot about it. It's a top-down isometric, sort of like action RPG, I think. Ariel, Little Mermaid. The only reason why I have this is because I was collecting the Black Spine set at one point in time. Same thing with the Arnold Palmer Tournament Golf. Aeroflash, Renovation. So Renovation was a company that brought over a lot of Japanese games from the Mega Drive over to the States. Games that were not published here originally. And I think this cover art is fantastic. It's a fun game. I like it a lot. It's underrated. You know, people call it too simplistic. But early in the day, there was a fair amount of crazy stuff going on this, you know, like this the wavy backgrounds. And for an early Genesis game, I thought it was a lot of fun. You switched forms between like your ship and your robot. Atomic Robo Kid, you're like it's like shoot 'em up where you pilot this, you know, really like trash can looking robot. I don't really understand the character design here, you know. You could have done a lot better. The gameplay is fine. The enemy sprite design is great. I just don't understand why the protagonist looks like a freaking trash can. It's always bothered me. It kind of kept me from liking the game more. Atomic Runner. Keep running. It's literally a run and gun. You just got to keep running. Don't stop. And that can be kind of hard because the screen auto scrolls as you move, and your jumps are ridiculously high. And he's a very acrobatic dude, and it's fun, you know. But Batman, the game, it's not as fun as the NES version. It's a totally different game. It's, you know, these screenshots are incorrect. These screenshots are taken from the NES game. The graphics do look good. The music is awesome. But it's not as fast paced as the NES game. It's not as actiony. It's more like methodical. It's okay. It's a good game, but you know, the best part of that game is the music for sure. Batman Returns. Haven't really sunk a lot of time into this. Again, this is one of my Black Spine purchases. Trying to complete that set. Battleship, you know, thrift store, $2. Battle Squadron is an EA shooter, and this also only came in a cardboard box. This is a printed cover for it because I didn't want to pay $90 for the stupid box, and because the game's just not that great. It is a 2-player shmup, but I just feel like there's just something fundamentally like unsatisfying about playing this game. All the enemies take way too many hits, you know, and you're struggling just to beat the stupid strings of popcorn enemies. That kind of sets you up for not so great of a time. Battletech, haven't played that too much. This is a big kahuna here. So, Battlemania Daigenju. So this is the sequel. This is Troubleshooter Part 2, but that was never released here in the States. So this is an import, obviously, and it's cased because it is expensive. And my game shelves here are in segments that only hold 8 games at a time. And the things that are thicker cause the games to have to be a tight fit. Battletoads. You know, everybody knows Battletoads. Battletoads Double Dragon, yeah, you know, beat 'em ups, both of them. Beyond Oasis, Another game I have not spent a lot of time with, but I will eventually. Another action RPG. It's heralded as being very good. Okay, so here's where some of my games are out of order because these are EA games, and EA early on released these thicker cases that kind of screws up the spacing. Super Baseball 2020, Bill Walsh College Football, and I came upon, someone just gave this to me. I didn't really buy this one. Bob, a robot kind of run and gun game. Yeah, it was originally a computer game, I think. I think a lot of the EA games were originally computer games early on. Bulls versus Lakers, Bulls versus Blazers. You know, when EA Sports really dug in its heels in the early days of the Genesis with the sports games. This is how they kind of, sports games are what made House EA, back in the day. It's kind of where they got their clout, right? And they kind of, the rest is history, I guess. Bimini Run, I don't care for that meme, it's kind of annoying. Blades of Vengeance is, another side-scroller, platformer / hack and slash-ish game. I believe this one is 2-player co-op too. Yeah, 2 players. So, next shelf. Biohazard Battle. This is a shooter with great music. It's very primal sounding music. You get to choose from 4 different ships that are all organic in nature, and they have all these different power-ups. It's actually really fun. Very underrated game. And, it's got a generic-ish kind of color or cover. The US games, didn't have great covers. What are you going to do? Bioship Paladin. This is a poor Genesis, like a slow-moving, kind of uninspired Mega Drive shooter. I have it because I collected all of the Genesis shooters, so that's one of them. All right, Bonanza Brothers, kind of puzzle-ish game. Boogerman, I got this from a friend. Burning Force. So Burning Force is a lot of people think of this as like a Space Harrier inspired game, and yeah, it is. You go forward, you shoot into the screen, you have tiles-ish, from the floor that come towards you. Power-ups are okay, it's a decent game. Another game I bought just because it was Konami. Now this game is really strange because Caliber 50, I don't know if there's another game for the Sega Genesis that's published by this company, Mentrix. So this was an arcade game, and it was designed, you need a rotary controller to turn your dude around and shoot in different directions. But in this version, like C rotates you to the clockwise, I think, and A rotates you counterclockwise, and then B is shooting, I think. And so it's kind of, you got to move about slower because you need to account for the extra time it takes you to turn and pivot. It could have been better, but it's not bad. It's not bad. It's kind of rare. Okay. Captain America and the Avengers. I like this game a lot. It's pretty close to the arcade. Obviously there's a graphical downgrade, and you can only have 2 players instead of 4. And even as a kid, I never knew who the hell Vision was and why he's just like this dude who's all white. And then after watching the MCU movies, I still kind of wonder what the appeal is for him. Doesn't really seem to fit, but, I'm not a huge comic buff guy, so what do I know? Everyone knows Cast of Illusion is one of the best early Genesis games. The animation, right, the sprites are just top-notch. The motion, everything about this game's just fantastic. Castlevania Bloodlines, right? So the only Castlevania game on the Genesis. A lot of, this has slowly earned praise and has earned some clout in recent years. It went for so long being a game that people just kind of forgotten about and didn't really care about because it wasn't on a Nintendo system. But over time, it's aged pretty well, I think, and people are starting to come around. Championship Pro-Am is a Genesis version of the same game on the NES. If you already have the NES version, you probably don't need it. Check-On is, it was a cool idea, but, man, they need to, refine the platforming and contacts and the collision, and you're jumping, and it's a frustrating platforming experience. Chase HQ. This is the port of the Taito arcade game. Chase people down and bump into them to arrest them, basically. Nice cover. Cheeky Boys. This game had an alternate title. Mega Twins or something like that, or Wonder Twins or something like that. I don't know. It's a platformer. It's kind of cutesy. You have a sword. It's not 2-player simultaneous like the arcade game was. They had to cut that out for the home port. Chuck Rock. Caveman for some reason was like a big thing in the 90s. I don't know what the appeal was, but showing prehistoric cavemen just was something every system had to do. It's an okay game, I guess. You hit people with your gut. You stick it out and plonk things. Columns, everybody knows that's the poor man's Tetris. Comic Zone. So here's another example of a game where I did not have the paper box. I had a loose cart. So I went to coverproject.net and just printed one out. And I don't care enough about the game to track down a physical cardboard box of it. I mean, people swear by this game. Some people love this game. I find it a little too frustrating. It gets hard, unnecessarily hard at some points, and it's kind of a turnoff. Contra Hardcore, literally hardcore, man. This game, they made this game harder than the Japanese version. So I have this. This is a repro of the Japanese version that has the original 3 hit points per life, and that makes the game a lot more palatable. And so I bought it because it had that restoration, but it also had all the cutscenes in English. And so I just keep both, even though this is a repro. I have some repros mixed in a bunch here. I don't really discriminate too much for it. But this is an original that I actually usually play that one. Cool Spot. Who knew there'd be a mascot for a soda drink, or a soda pop, soft drink? Crackdown is kind of a slow, fun game. This is you walk around and you've got to plant bombs on each stage where the markings are, and you have to avoid being shot. You can hug the walls. It's fun. It's a fun game. But it's maybe it didn't get a lot of appeal because the character sprites are small, because the camera view has to zoom out in order to show more of the layout so you can move. Crossfire. I think this was called Super Airwolf before. It's a shooter, but it's also a run and gun. Your shooter is you fly into the country and you pass through a couple stages, but at some point you land and you go on foot, and then maybe you alternate. It's average. This is my Crusader of Senti repro, because I'm not gonna pay that much for that game. Curse. This cover art is awesome too. This is another Japanese shooter for the Mega Drive. The game is okay. The frame rate kind of lags. It suffers and it's visibly noticeable. I guess if you get past that, it's fine. Cyborg Justice. Average game. You can beat people up and steal their body parts, but I don't know. Maybe I should give it more time. Maybe we'll go back to that. Cyberball, another black box game. Dangerous Sea. This game's a lot of fun. It's a shooter, and it's the boss designs are pretty inspired. Like the enemy bosses, they're pretty cool. Kind of a upper mid tier Mega Drive shooter. So Death and Return of Superman is a beat 'em up, and you kind of follow the game stages go through as you progress through his death, and you come back and he's changed, and at the end of the day, it's got enough variety. It's fun. It's not great, but it's fun. So this is the Columbus Circle release of Darius Extra. So it's I believe it's official, but it's they released this after the Genesis Mini came out, because the Genesis Mini had the first Darius game on it, And so people want physical form, so they released this form. The thing that I don't like about this version is that the PCB for the cart is too thick. And I just don't like sticking in those wider PCBs into the Genesis, because I just know they're bending the pins, and if you do that too many times, I swear that it's not going to be able to read original carts anymore. So I have it, but I'm conflicted. I don't want to play it. I had a friend make me this, and this is like this. It's literally the same game, except that this is using an original cart. So the PCB is to original specs, and so it's not going to harm the Genesis at all. And so I actually prefer to play it on this, even though it's official. Darwin 4081. You're a mutating ship as you collect more pieces of DNA. It's a shooter. It's okay. So Darius Ii. So this was not released here. This was, at least it wasn't released under this name. It was released, but it was called Sagiya. For some reason, when they released Darius II, you know, they called it Sagiya, and I don't understand. But it's a fun game. This is a great game. One curious thing about Mega Drive games is because Mega Drive games are released in Japan, no hang tab. No hang tab on Mega Drive games. So, you know, I don't know if everybody knows that, but it's something you can kind of keep your eyes out. If you see a Mega Drive game in a game with a hang tab or a hang tab cut, then it's probably a repro box at least, or a repro game altogether. So this is Daizenpu, known as Twin Hawk? No. Yes. Maybe. I think it's called Twin Hawk. But it's called Daizenpu, you know, the Mega Drive version of it. It's a total plan game. It's a straightforward World War II shooter. And all of your enemies are tanks. They're all ground-based weapons. And you don't have a bomb per se, but you have like every time you press the bomb button, a squadron appears, and they kind of show up and kind of help you out. But they do, when they get hit, they do dive bomb enemies. So it's kind of a slower pace, but it's fun. Yeah. So this game, Divine Ceiling, is this is a repro box. It's the actual cart. It's so that I don't think this was an official release, but this is the real cart of the unofficial release. And it's yeah, between stages there's some lewd imagery. Okay, not going to zoom in on that. It's not a great game, but I got it just to complete the shooter set for the Genesis Mega Drive. All right, let's move down. Doom Troopers is a run and gun, and this is a repro box because the original box was cardboard and just too pricey. It's fine with just getting the card only, printing a box of Lord. Double Dragon. This game, man, talk about a game that had missed its potential. The NES game was good, but as everybody knows, the NES game is only one player, and they made a lot of graphical compromises. I was hoping that by the time this came out for the Genesis, it would be arcade perfect, and it almost is. It's almost there, but the problem is that everyone moves way too fast. Your head's spinning just watching all your enemies like fly around you and surrounding you, and it makes the game not fun. Well, I don't know how that. I mean, you know, blast processing, making everything faster. You know, it's kind of, they took that a little too literally, I think. So the game, it could have been better. It's not an official release either. It's these Accolade games, or sorry, these Ballistic games, they're not official releases. They don't have the Genesis seal. Dr. Robotnik, puzzle game. Dragon's Fury is a pinball game. I think this is Devil's Crush on the TurboGrafx 16. It's a fun pinball game. Dragon's Revenge. This one is the sequel and not as fun as the first. Dungeons Dragons, Dynamite Duke. This is the shooter gallery type game, except by looking at it, you almost think that you would be using a light gun, but you're not. You're moving around the cursor, and your main character is partially transparent, so you can kind of see. And then when you get to boss battles, the boss battles are up and close, and so you actually can like duke it out and duck and move and punch. It's a fun game for those, if you like those kinds of, you know, Operation Wolf type games. Dynamite Heady is another treasure game. It's kind of wacky and crazy. Basically a platformer. So the Earth Defense. See, it's called the Earth Defend, but the box cover says Earth Defense. This is also an unlicensed game for the Genesis, and it's very, very mediocre. This is like a game that, like, you know, someone in their sophomore year high school graphics class created and then got a C. I bought it just to have it, but I don't ever, like, I don't see myself playing that ever again. Earthworm, Gems, Echo the Dolphins, Elemental Master. So this is another Renovation published game, but this is actually made by Technosoft, who made the Thunder Force series. And once you play, the minute you start shooting, you can tell because a lot of the sound effects are borrowed. The gameplay is very, very tight. This is a fun game. You can run and you can shoot forwards or backwards. You have a health bar and you can cycle between the different magics, which is like your weapon types. So yeah, is it a shoot 'em up or is it a run and gun? It could be either depending on how you look at it. But it's a lot of fun. Okay, so this is Eliminate. You know, I'm gonna keep this one to the end and talk about this later. E-SWAT, you know, kind of like Shinobi, but you're a cop and going side to side, and then you eventually upgrade and get the cybernetic suit, and which is oddly very, very vulnerable to enemy fire as bits of your armor fly off when you get hit. It's still a fun game, but you know, it's just kind of funny. Eternal Champions, people say this is a great fighting game, but I don't really, I can't play fighting games other than Street Fighter games. I don't know why I bought this. It's, you know, same thing with Mortal Kombat games, same thing with Fatal Furies and King of Fighters and all. I just cannot play fighting games if they are not using the logic of Street Fighter games. My muscle memory is too ingrained. Boxing game, okay. Don't care a whole lot about these. Oh, this is terrible. What a letdown, Fantasia. It looks like it could be just like Castle of Illusion. But surprise, the hit detectant is absolute garbage. Right? You don't know what the hell's going on. You don't know what killed you. It's just, things just don't make sense. Fire Mustang. An underrated game. So this is a side scroller. It's a horizontal shooter, you know, with a World War II theme. And the different weapons you get, some are more air to air, some are air to ground because there are gun emplacements and tanks to shoot and attack. You know, when you've played all of the other horizontal shooters on the Genesis and you want to play something else, look this one up. Fire Shark is one of my absolute favorites. I don't know, I can't put my finger on why. It's very straightforward. It's toe plan. Oh, the reason why is probably because of the amount of destruction you can do. When you get the flame shot, when you get that flame shot fully powered up, you're like death incarnate. It's actually a lot of fun. And even the spread shot, the default spread shot, when you power that up, that's pretty good too. Sometimes there's so many power-ups on the screen that you don't want to lose the one you have. So part of the challenge in the game is to like avoid losing your power-up. Flashback, Flicky, early Sega game, early Sega arcade game. You have to rescue these chicks and they follow you and you have to bring them to the door, but there's these cats wandering around. If they touch you, then the chicks don't follow you. You have to collect them up again. Very simple, very fun. Forgotten Worlds, early two-player shooter, flying backpack shooter. You got to rotate your ship around, so one button rotates you and you fire with the other. So that's a little wonky because, you know, this is another one of those games in arcade that had a rotary stick. So they adapted it the best they could. That's a pretty cool boss, by the way. The Capcom had some strong early entries for the Genesis, which they ported themselves. They coded it in-house. Frogger. This is the last Genesis game release, I think, right? At least that was officially licensed by Sega in their day. That's Frogger. Not much to say about this. Gadget Twins was a game I didn't really want to buy, but I ended up buying just because it was one of the last games I needed to complete my shooter set. Even though it's not a shooter, because you're not actually shooting anything, you're just punching things. But everybody is getting a lot of flack from people in the community. Oh, you should get Gadget Twins. It's a shooter. I'm like, it's not really a shooter, but whatever. Here it is. Guy RS, the original. I know that they re-released this. Retrobit did, and just a fantastic game. This game was really expensive back in the day. I remember seeing this game for like $70 or $80 because of the extra memory it had on it. It was very challenging, very fun, very rewarding. You can steal power-ups from your enemies, or you shoot your little satellite at them, and it sucks. It copies their firepower, but if you do it over and over again, then your weapon fire gets stronger and stronger. So pretty innovative concept. Cover art is kind of lame on the front. The Japanese cover art's better, but that's true for a lot of the games. Gain Ground. This is a puzzle. It's a single screen, how do you describe it? Arena battle game. It's kind of like a puzzle game because each of your characters has different weapon abilities, and you've got to figure out who to use and how to kill enemies in certain places. Like, you guys got guys that are sitting on the top of an embankment, so you need someone who can hurl spears up high, or that kind of thing. Really fun 2-player co-op game, right? And I know it's a slow start, so you first start playing this, you're thinking, oh, this game's so slow, but you start to realize the payoff is when you start collecting up and rescuing other soldiers who have fallen. Then they can become playable characters for you, and that's when it really starts getting fun. I can't recommend this game enough. Galaxy Force, Garfield. The animation on this is really good. The graphics are really good. It's a late game. The platforming, hit detection, is suspect, but it looks good. Another box game that was originally a cardboard game, so I printed a manual for it. Gauntlet 4. So yeah, this is a very it looks like just a port of the original arcade game. Now it's called Gauntlet 4, but it's really a port of the first Gauntlet. I don't know why they called it 4. Yeah, lots of extra bonus things like you can save progress and stuff like that. So this is a game I heard from a friend. The Koei games are pretty good. They're like slow burn strategy games for the Genesis. And so, one of those things where you can slowly conquer an empire by there's all these strategic actions by recruiting and making friends and making treaties and attacking certain, other countries or states. And it's just a very deep game. I want to start, but when I have my free time, which means I'll probably play this when I retire. Ghostbusters. Super deformed little chibi versions of the Ghostbusters. It's actually a really good game. The action's really tight. Players have different attributes, speed and jumping power and stuff like that. So, early game. Ghosts and Ghouls. What else can be said about Ghosts and Ghouls? It's one of the best. And depending on who you ask, depending on how much you play, this could be really hard or not hard. But it's a must-have. Okay. G-Lock, another Afterburner 2 wannabe. It's okay. It's not as fun as the original one. Golden Axe, this is a must-have for anybody. Right, this is probably one of the most nostalgic Genesis games there are. The port of this game was fantastic. The music's intact. The 2-player action, the magic. Just what can you say? I mean, this is one of the best early Genesis games ever made. When Golden Axe 2 was made, the first one set such a high bar. I don't know how you follow up the first one. I felt like, they could have did a better job with this game because they're showing you the best, right? Like, that magic there is great, but I feel like most of the magic in this game is not as inspired as the first game. The background graphics, I just felt like they took a step back. It's more like there was repetitive use of tiles and sprites, and You know, there's not as much enemy variety in this game. If you really love Golden Axe and you know the first one back and forth, then play Golden Axe 2 as well. But, you know, it's just, in my opinion, not as good of a game. Oh, also, if you have a 6-button Genesis controller, you need to hold down the mode button when you power this game up, because otherwise the game won't recognize the D-pad. So here's Golden Axe 3. This is the Mega Drive. Well, actually, this is the original because it was not released here domestically. And this game is region locked if you have a specific... I have an early Genesis Model 1, so my game does not play this cart. So I had bought a repro version of it. Again, any repro that I buy for the Genesis, I make sure it's used from donor parts, because that PCB thickness on the board is really important. So this makes the game playable, and it's you know, because it's a shame it didn't get released here, because I think it kind of brought people back to the Golden Axe. You know, it's a way of calling people. It was a good third effort. It's much better than the second game, but most people wouldn't have realized that. Granada X. I don't know if that's an X, if the game is called X Granada X or just Granada. Kind of a confusing title. Anyways, this is a free roaming tank shooter, and you know, you have these bases and these parts of the world that you need to destroy before the map clears. Then you face a boss. It's a lot of fun. You can lock your turret in a direction as you shoot, or you can get all these weapons, these options. Kind of a different approach. Okay. This General Chaos box size annoys me. It messes up with how many games I could fit on my shelf. Yeah, Green Dog. This game, Growls. I think this is a lot of fun. It is a beat 'em up, and you know, you're beating up poachers who are hurting animals and whipping animals, and once you like free the animals, they help you out a little bit. There's weapons you can pick up, like bazookas and grenades, and when you throw a grenade, literally you will see the enemy's body parts go flying. There'll be like arms and legs and stuff like that. So it's kind of a riot. Too bad it's not 2-player like the arcade. Grindstormer. So this is a toe plan shooter as well. I feel like, you know, the arcade version, because the arcade versions were verticals, and because home Genesis games are not vertical, you have the zoomed in approach, right? So you're zooming in like the bottom 2/3 of the screen, and whenever they do that, it just makes the game harder, because the game was not designed for you to only react to enemies once they're right in your face. You know, you just have you need the super reflexes. There's very limited time to react. It's just, I find like a game like this too hard. This game, a lot of people's Grindstormer copies, something on the chip will die. So a lot of these games are bricked. They just don't work. Luckily, mine works. Yeah. Gunstar Heroes, treasure game, one of the best running guns out there. Everybody knows that. Heavy Units, Mega Drive shooter. This is a great box art, but the game is frustratingly difficult. I don't know, the enemy, the stage layouts and where they place enemies and where they shoot at you. I just feel like it's kind of like set you up just to like mess with you. So Hellfire, another Total Plan game. This game is really unique and a lot of fun. You have different shooting directions that you can cycle through, and you need to strategically think about, you know, where you're going to be shooting depending on where the enemies are relative to you. So you have to, it's like a thinking man shooter almost. Here's Dogs Y, a real-time strategy game. One of the earliest real-time strategy games where you have to, you know, you're both navigating and moving materials and resources and troops around, but your ship is also a transformable mech that can undergo battle as well. There's a lot going on here. It gets kind of hectic, and if you don't have the manual and you don't know what you're doing, it's easy to get turned off and get frustrated. Probably the best way to learn how to play this game in these days is to watch a YouTube playthrough of it before you attempt it, because if you just go in dry, it'll be frustrating. You might not have a good experience. Detector X. This game doesn't get enough love. I think this game's a lot of fun. So you're this insect, you're humanoid, kind of wearing an insect suit, and you're flying through and shooting other bugs. I don't know if there's a story, if there's queen bee or whatever. I just know that it's kind of fun. All right, James Pond's platformer, originally an Amiga game, I think. You know, Pond as in like James Bond, right? So you're this underwater agent, you're this fish, and your job is to clean up the pollution in the oceans. It's cute, it's fun. The control could be better. When you play it, it feels like it's a computer game, even though you're using a Genesis D-pad. So that could be better. But besides that, it's worth trying. Had 2 sequels. Also had like some kind of sports game released as well, which I don't have. The Joe Montana games. Judge Dredd is kind of a platformer, or run and gun rather. It's a game. Disney's Jungle Book, the Jurassic Park games, King of Monsters. These are ports from the Neo Geo games. Okay, this video is getting real long. I'm going to stop this here, and we'll pick up part 2 in a little bit.